All right. Welcome, everybody, to the first official full-length episode of Frugal Fire. Technically, Frugal Fire number 2 because we like numbers. We've got a pretty awesome show in store for you tonight. With me is my co-host, Sasha. Sasha?
Hi. Hello, I'm Sasha Chua.
And we also have Justin from Root of Good. You've probably heard of him on the forums. He's pretty active over there, and his blog is awesome. Justin?
Hey guys, how's it going?
All right, so we've got a couple things that we're going to take care of. First of all, some administrative things, just let you guys know exactly what it is that we're doing here, what's going on, and kind of what we're planning on talking about for the show this evening. So first off, as you may have heard in the primer, the goals of the show are primarily to offer suggestions, challenge your assumptions, offer support to anyone who needs it, have a fun time, and some motivation. This is for everybody who is attempting to catch fire. Once again, that's financially independent, retiring early, like Mr. Justin here. Yeah, this is a show about frugality, following the mustachian ways from Mr. Money Mustache. So, first off, welcome again to the show. I'm Jordan, 28 years old, currently working towards fire. My co-host, Sasha.
Hi, I'm Sasha Chua. I'm 30 and I'm on a 5-year experiment with semi-retirement.
And Justin, who has beat us all to the punch. Justin, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. I'm Justin McCurry. You can find me at RootOfGood.com, and I retired at 33 about 6 months ago. When I was working, I worked as an engineer. My wife, she's been working in banking for quite a while, about the same amount of time as me. I guess it's been an interesting 6 months so far. I have 3 children, a 1-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 8-year-old. So they take up a good bit of my day, but not all of it. I have enough free time to get everything, well, almost everything I want to do done. But that's kind of my life in a nutshell. I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. The sun's finally coming out, and the days are getting longer. And it was spring yesterday, and now it was winter today, and it'll be spring again this weekend. So I'm looking forward to getting outside and enjoying the weather some more.
Awesome, cool, thanks. Well, we're going to touch base with Justin here in just a minute, ask him how he reached his goals and any advice that he has for those of us who haven't quite done that yet. However, we are going to go over a couple of things real quick, just kind of give you guys an outline of what the show is going to be about. So there was a few different things on the Mr. Money Mustache site, as well as some stuff that was going on in the forums. There was the big thing with Kiss Trust, which I imagine a lot of you heard about. Getting a bunch of early retired people angry at you. Not a good way to market your product. That's pretty much it. We'll touch a little bit on that, but that's not really our goals. One of the other posts that he mentioned was that, what was it? It was something along the lines of things aren't really all that bad or something like that, which kind of goes in with a couple of forum posts called Life is Awesome, and I'll talk a little bit about negative visualization and some other things that I have learned while researching Stoicism, which was referred to me, of course, by Mr. Money Mustache. We're also going to mention the Financial Independence Laboratory from the Mad Scientist. Bunch of little tools and stuff, ways to put in things, and similar to FireCalc. If you haven't heard of that, it's another nice way of kind of envisioning what your future is going to go. How much do you actually need for retirement, especially if you separate out your money from your happiness. Also, I'll do a little bit of a quick book review on the Chasing Daylight book, which was a book about a gentleman who found out that he only has a little bit of time to live and managed to document that entire thing. His journey from finding out what he did and moving on from there. So we're going to go ahead and start with a couple of questions for Justin, a little bit more in-depth. So, Justin, when did you start the whole frugal lifestyle? When did you decide that you wanted to retire early?
Well, I've always been frugal all of my life, really. I guess it started. I can remember. I didn't know it was called FIRE. I didn't know it was called financial independence or retire early. I just started realizing, even back in high school, I put together like a little play budget. Before I was thinking about going to college and had a job, and I was like, well, I'm making, 800 bucks a month or whatever it was back then, minimum wage. Not a lot of money, but for a kid that hasn't had much money, that's a lot of money. And I was like, wow, me and my friends can get an apartment and split the bills and split, the water bill and gas bill and electricity bill and I don't know if food's like 100 bucks a month or whatever, who knows, and we could just share a car. And I was like, wow, it doesn't take that much to get by in life. And so I thought about not going to college, and luckily I went ahead and went to college. But so even back then, like the concepts were there. Finished college, I got a job, and then the money was coming in fast enough, and we weren't spending it all. So I just started socking it away, dropping it all, maxed out the 401k first year I could. I even had IRAs back with part-time jobs during college. So it really didn't start out as a goal to retire early necessarily, but just saving a lot. And then I think I found the early retirement. I think it's early-retirement.org, the early retirement forums. So I started reading up there and learning about. There's people that have done this before. There's the 4% rule, and there's figuring out how much you make and figuring out what you're going to be spending in retirement, and after that, it's just a simple mathematical formula or equation of saving up enough until you have 25 times your expenses in retirement, and then you're financially independent. And so probably somewhere a year or two after I started working full time after college, that's when that idea of early retirement crystallized in my head, and I had a spreadsheet, I could figure it out.
Awesome, cool. So you've essentially been frugal your entire life, similar to Sasha. You haven't made the same dumb mistakes that I have and stuff. However, I would like to ask, after you retire, a lot of times people have questions like, oh, I couldn't retire, I love my work, or what am I going to do with all of that time, honestly? I mean, how am I going to handle this? I mean, right now, I decompress for an hour. I don't know that I could fill up my time. And I know you said you have kids, and that takes a pretty good chunk of time out of your day. Besides that, like, what kind of personal goals do you have? What kind of tasks do you do to fill your days? Do you find that that's actually an issue? Is it something that people need to start thinking about before they catch fire, before they start on this path, or is it something that you found that naturally kind of fills things up as you go?
I've never had enough time to do everything that I wanted to do. When I was working, that you have an hour or two each night after work, maybe after you have dinner and before bed. And you're just so worn out mentally from work that you're not able to just sit back and relax. And there's the weekend when you're working, but the weekends are so filled up with catching up from the week, catching up on what you've been wanting to do, catching up on chores and running errands, and so you always hit Sunday night and you're like, man, there was so much I wanted to do, but I didn't get it all done. I didn't get half of it done. And so now, I don't have Sunday nights anymore. I just have all this relatively free time, and there's kid stuff in there, but for the most part, I mean, I just do a lot more of what I wanted to do when I was working. So I would end up, all kinds of stuff. I read books. I mean, a typical day, I might read a book for an hour. Might get on the internet and mess around for an hour or two or three. I play some online games with some friends. That might take 30 minutes or an hour. I'll cook dinner, cook lunch, do a little bit of work around the house, do some yard work. Well, when it's springtime, I'll do some yard work. In the winter, there's not really anything to be done outside. I've been doing some online learning. There's a Coursera course I've been working on. There's the Duolingo French language learning I've been working on quite a bit. Then I probably sometimes I'll spend a couple hours, 3 or 4 hours sometimes, writing a blog article, doing research for it. So it's really just a very mixed bag of what I'm doing. And then there's the social part. There's the relaxing part. Go out for lunch with some old friends. Go out take my 1-year-old out on a play date with a friend of ours, or go to the park and just hang out, bum around. It's not. I guess there's not anything big, major milestones I'm trying to hit right now today. It's just enjoying life each day.
Awesome, and that really is what this is all about. Money buys you freedom. It doesn't buy you stuff. I mean, it can, but if you waste all your time on stuff, you'll never be free. Never be free of that employer, never be free of that jerk boss, never be free of those stupid office functions, etc. So I'm glad you mentioned the social thing. So we actually started this Google Plus community called Mustachians. Sasha in a minute here will get it up on the board for us so you guys can all stop by, join in, and everything. One of the big things that I guess the goal of this, or the reason that I created this, was because people they really like to meet up with other people and have in real life hangouts, and that's one of the things that we tried to create. You can see the link right there, gplus.2/mustachians. So I know that you've had experience, Justin, with actually mustachian meetups.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what that was like? Where was it? When was it? What was it like meeting a bunch of other people who are either on this path or are already retired or whatever? Can you just describe that a bit?
Yeah, it was, going into it, I wasn't really sure what to expect. I think we had the first one in October of 2013 here in Raleigh. Going into it, I was meeting 5 unknown strangers from the internet. So a little bit of apprehension. We were meeting in a public place out in the open, and I had my wife there for backup. So I was relatively comfortable, and I knew the area, so it was cool. But yeah, once we got there, we were actually a few minutes late, and so they were all there hanging out already, and it was just 5 or 6 ordinary people that I think they all live in Durham, and I live in Raleigh, so we're 20 or 30 miles apart, but I could see us hanging out if we knew each other, grew up together, or went to college together. A lot of science, engineering kind of people there. Very, very smart people, fun to chit chat with. So I think about half of us were, stock market index fund investors. The other half were, or maybe 1 or 2 guys were real estate, rental income guys. So some diversity there. We just shot the breeze about travel, goals, plans, where we're at, jobs, credit card hacking. I mean, just it was it was fun. It was fun to hang out and be among company that knows the acronyms and knows the lingo and gets it. So you're not having to try to dance around the issue of is it even possible, or no, that's totally crazy. So I don't really talk about financial independence with my friends that much in general, just because it's not necessarily something that they are very, very laser focused on.
So how do you manage that? You've mentioned in our pre-interview that you do see a lot of, for example, other stay-at-home dads or stay-at-home parents, and this is something that people fairly understand fairly well. But this early retirement idea, on the other hand, is something that a lot of people are uncomfortable with, or they don't think it's possible. It might not be something you talk about with friends, but how do you deal with it when you're socializing with other people when they ask the "so what do you do" sort of question?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen very different takes on how you present it. I kind of just don't make it a big deal. I think I've mentioned to one or two people, I'm retired, and I don't know, maybe I look a little bit older than 33, maybe I look 40 or something, and so they're just kind of like, oh, maybe he's a dot-com millionaire, or maybe he's just BSing. I joke around a lot too, so it's easy to mistake what I'm saying as just a joke, but for a lot of people, I don't even bring it up. I mean, if they say, oh, that's nice, you have lots of free time, and then I can just I can say, yeah, I'm just not really busy right now, or I'm in between jobs, which is sort of true. I mean, there was a job on one side of this break, not on the other side, hopefully, but you can say I did do one freelance job, so I can say honestly that I do a little freelancing on the side. I haven't done anything for a month, so it's maybe a little bit misleading, but yeah. Overall, I haven't really seen any backlash from it. I know some people are just extremely scared to ever mention that they're retired early, but I don't know. I haven't ever been called on it or asked to explain it, so I'm only 6 months into it though.
Gotcha. And that actually that does bring me up to another question. So I know that we talked about this a little bit in the pre-interview and everything, and I know that when I catch fire, I'm going to have this issue. I love my field. I love my job. I love doing what I do. For those of you who don't know, I'm a software engineer. I write code. I make magic happen every day. So and I imagine I'm going to take some freelance jobs or some contracts or something like that. How do you balance that with being able to step back and I don't necessarily have to do this? How do you separate work from being retired?
I don't really know. It hasn't been an issue for me so far. I have this this relationship with the company where they said it maybe once per month you can write a blog article for us, and the pay was just very good for what the market is out there for freelance writing. And so I said, okay, cool, sounds interesting. It's for a good company that I know, and I like the product, and so I'll give it a shot, and we'll see where it goes from there. And it was really presented as like a, maybe do once a month for 3 months. So it hasn't been. I think it was probably 8 to 12 hours total for that first job. I haven't been knocking on his door saying, hey, can I please have more work? I wouldn't, and if he called me today or tomorrow or emailed me, I probably would do one. But so far, it's really just if it interferes with your life, you don't have to do it. I think I sent you guys that that job offer for some contract work doing some like podcasting kind of stuff or something, and I was looking at it, I was like, man, I could probably figure this out and like BS my way into this job and make $700 a month or whatever, or $500 a month, whatever it was. But then I was like, then I have to learn it, I have to figure it out and then manage it, and then it may blow up into double the amount of work, and so that was one of those things where I was like, that's too involved. I just don't want to do it. So if something comes up that's interesting and that also happens to pay well, hey, do it. But I just didn't want to commit to too much, and it was a little bit stressful when I was doing that freelance article because I did have to make some corrections, at 9 o'clock at night, which I don't mind being flexible, but so and it took time away from what I wanted to do. So that's something I would keep in mind in the future if it does interfere with what I want to do, and I don't need the money, then the right thing for me to do is just to say, hey, thanks, but I've had enough.
And have you had to do that before, or is it just you've kind of set yourself up to where you don't get the options that often, more often than you really want, where you don't need to turn it down?
Yeah, it's pretty much it's just been that one thing I've done once so far, and I'll do more for the company probably, but I'm sure people that make freelance writing or blogging a career, they're probably a lot more active in following up, doing the right things for business. following up, reaching out, making contacts, and saying, hey, here's an idea. I can write about this, or I can write about that, or hey, do you have anything for me this week? And making those contacts once a week, twice a week, and I still talk to the guy fairly often, but it's not really about doing more work. So I think it's just a difference of are you out there pounding the pavement trying to get more work? Yeah, if you're doing that, that's the business. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. The good thing is I can do as little or as much as I want. I just don't have to because of the money situation.
Awesome. Sasha, I know that you had some experience with that. Did you want to discuss that now, or maybe during the panel section?
Actually, what I'm particularly curious about is not so much the chasing after work, but something I read in your 6-month update where you were, I guess, trying to get used to being able to relax. Is that what I'm correctly reading from your blog post? Where in terms of relaxing, you have to learn how to give yourself permission to just read a book during a weekday and or go for a nice long walk when other people are still working. Tell us a little bit more about learning how to do that.
Yeah, it sounds weird, learning how to relax or learning how to do nothing. I guess, I don't know, since I was in middle school or high school or whatever, I've just been busy all the time with school or with work or both or other activities and kids. And so it's hard to realize that it's okay just to sit down and do nothing for like 3 hours. Like lay in the hammock for 3 hours and just watch the birds fly around and watch the woodpeckers peck away and see if you can see how many squirrels you can count and just to do nothing productive. I mean, read a book, whatever, listen to music, but I don't know. It's just I think this last month I was able to finally just kind of relax and say, this is it. I mean, I don't have to do anything I don't want to do anymore. I don't have to always be productive. So it's a little bit, I don't know, I just felt kind of like I had to be busy the first few months, and I've heard it takes 6 months to a year to kind of unwind and get into this new groove of early retirement. And so I think I'm sort of reached that point now. It's hard to explain, but just accepting the fact that it's okay to not always be productive.
Mm. Yeah, I remember struggling with that myself in the first couple of years. It's just like, wait, I should be doing something. Otherwise, what else will you have to show for the day? But you're
Right.
learning a lot. You're learning French. You're learning all sorts of things. You're teaching your kids stuff too. So I think you're actually doing plenty when you say you're doing nothing.
Yeah, and that's part of it is I don't know. I felt like I had to have like some objective measures of performance. Like I had to fill out an annual performance review or something, and I'm like, I don't. I mean, it's up to me. I'm responsible for me now. That's sort of getting comfortable with that. There is no external party. I mean, other than your own family, taking care of them and making sure the finances, the books balance and everything. But it's just it's okay to have some me time. Or play with the kids, go outside and play, or play a board game with the kids, or spend 3 hours cooking something elaborate, even though you could be using the time to do something else, writing a new freelance article for some money.
Cool. So what is different? Because this is something that I know Mr. Money Mustache really recommends, and I totally get the point of it. Kids, for me, aren't necessarily in the cards. But what is it like being a retired stay-at-home dad versus like a regular stay-at-home dad? Like, how would you describe the differences there, and how do you deal with that stuff?
I'm not really sure. I don't really know qualitatively how it's different, other than we have plenty of money. I know a lot of single income families struggle with that in terms of there's not. I mean, you have plenty of money to put food on the table, but you may not have enough money to do whatever you want to do. And I think we're at that point where my wife is actually still working for another year and a half maybe, but that's just kind of gravy. It's just icing on the cake. Her salary has just been sitting in a cash account, and it's been building up, and I haven't really figured out what to do with it. And so, we almost have, I don't know, it's probably getting close to a half a year's or year's worth of expenses now, just sitting in cash. And so, it is weird because I'm here by myself all day, so I am like a stay-at-home dad. And I've used that description before. I'm comfortable with it. I don't feel like I have to have an early retirement card in my back pocket. I think I've mentioned the retirement police article from Mr. Money Mustache a couple of times on my blog, because when I read that, I was like, it resonated so much because, I mean, who cares? It's just a label. Whether you're early retired or a stay-at-home dad with, enough our withdrawal rate's 3% or so, and so, I mean, are we financially independent? Yeah. Can my wife quit tomorrow? Yeah, she might. If she has a bad day, that may be it. Not a big deal. Her company's very flexible right now and offering them some pretty good stuff to keep her around for a little while. So, I guess I can't really say there's any difference between stay-at-home dad and early retired stay-at-home dad other than the financial independence aspect of it.
Awesome. All right, Sasha, did you have any other questions before we jumped into the panel section of this?
I'm sure we'll come up with other questions as we go through the conversation, so go ahead.
All right, awesome. Well, one thing that I did want to point out, and Sasha is the expert on this, you can actually see it at her blog. What you're seeing on the screen right now when her stuff pops up is, what is it called, Sasha? Visual note-taking, right?
It's just a way for us to remember what we've been talking about, and it's something that's easy to share with people afterwards, too.
And she's got a really good blog post on how to go about doing this. So if you guys were curious what that was, it wasn't just her with some type of manic doodling. Okay, so that's awesome. So there were a couple things that were mentioned that some of our newer viewers or people new to the FIRE thing may not be familiar with, and we'll go ahead and just start with you, Justin. Can you explain to people what you mean or what it's like, the withdrawal rate? What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, there's a study, it's called the Trinity Study, and I forget who the authors of the study were, but they basically studied how much can you withdraw from your investment portfolio so that it will never run out of money. They looked at a 30-year period, and they said you can withdraw around 4% of your portfolio each year and adjust it upwards for inflation every year, and you will not run out of money 95% of the time. 5% of the time you run out of money, and I don't know what you do. I guess you go back to work.
Take a freelance job.
Well, exactly. That's it. And the key parts of that are it's only 30 years, and so if you're retiring in your 30s, that'll only get you to your 60s. Now, Social Security kicks in your 60s, and so you may be totally fine anyway. 4%. I looked at 4%, and I said, well, there's a little bit of risk there. For me, I mean, we just kind of spend what we want to spend, and it ends up being about 3%. It may be more, as the kids get older and they're in their teen years. It may come closer to 4%. The portfolio may go down in value, and will be closer to 4%. But one thing that we plan on doing is adjusting our withdrawals when the portfolio fluctuates in value. We're not going to just blindly keep spending 3% or 4% of our portfolio every year if the portfolio falls in half like it did in 2008 and in 2009. we'll probably cut out some discretionary spending. I might try to pick up some more freelance work and pound the pavement and try to bring in some money from that a lot harder. So that's something that when you're looking at it, I think 4% is a good, easy rule. It's a good soundbite. Hey, just you can spend 4% of your portfolio every year. So it's an easy rule of thumb, and you can really model it exactly for what you plan on spending, and you can put your Social Security when you're planning on getting it, or other pensions. I mean, a lot of people still have pensions, especially in the government employment sector. You can model that. There's firecalc.org, and there's another one called cfiresim.com or .org, but you can search for that, cfiresim. Those two are pretty similar. They use that same Trinity study methodology and data, and they're good to play with because you can figure out do you want 4% inflation adjusted every year, and that security of knowing you'll never have to cut your spending ever. For me, it just seems unrealistic to think that you're going to spend the same amount whether you have double your portfolio value in 10 years or if you have half your portfolio value in 10 years. I think naturally you're going to feel stress of spending lots of money. If your portfolio gets cut in half, you're going to spend less money. If you're twice as wealthy as you are when you first retire, you're probably going to spend more money.
So tell me a little bit about surviving that stressful period when you saw your portfolio go down quite a lot in 2008. How did you keep on going?
It really was not that big of a deal. I mean, we were I don't know how much we lost in total, but it was almost $300,000. I mean, it was a lot of money at the time, multiples of our annual income. But we were spending a very small fraction of our total income, maybe 30, 40, probably about 40% of our income we were spending, and we were saving the rest. So we knew at the time if one of us lost a job, it really would not matter at all in terms of day-to-day living. It would just mean we're saving less money. So that's part of the reason why we knew the investments they're there for 5 or 6 decades. They're not, we don't need the money tomorrow. We don't need it next month or next year or even 10 years from now. It's long term, and I think that's the biggest. If you can separate the psychology of losing money today that you need today from having the values fluctuate for something that's there for the long term, that'll keep you sane and let you stay in the market when you need to be in there and prevent you from selling out at the bottom. Because I know people I worked with and people online were just freaking out and panicking as the market kept dropping, and a lot of people sold and they did not get back in and they still aren't in, a lot of them, and they've sworn off investing in the market. But I don't see how long term. I don't see where the wealth creation is going to come from in an investment portfolio without some good allocation to equities, unless you just have tons of money and you don't need more than 1 or 2% per year to spend from your portfolio.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because they what's the phrase that we use around there when the market drops? Oh, everything's on sale.
Yeah, it's a buying opportunity.
Absolutely correct. I mean, pulling out at that point is that point it's too late. You hang on.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, cool. So, one of the things I did want to discuss here, just in general, is about we're gonna just change gears just a little bit. Is about negative visualization. It's about it's a Stoic philosophy, or part of the Stoic philosophy from the ancient Greek Romans. Marcus Aurelius was one of the last famous Stoics. However, mustachionism has been linked relatively well to Stoicism, minus some things that aren't necessarily the same, but it's essentially a philosophy of life. And one of the things that I found that was extremely helpful with that is, well, mustachionism is all about separating out, it's getting the most out of life without tying that to money. Yes, an all-inclusive vacation is would be really fun, and it costs a whole bunch of money. Yes, camping is also very fun and costs a lot less money. So the mustachian, the way of life, essentially, is all about finding those things that get the maximum happiness for the least amount of money. So you're not actually being, you're not depriving yourself of anything. You're just finding alternate ways of looking at life and everything like that. And one thing that I wanted to share was, and it tied in really well with the Why We're Not Really All Doomed blog post from Mr. Money Mustache. And that is just understanding exactly what it is that you have and how awesome it is. So I started a thread called Life is Awesome, Here is Why. And I just kind of wanted to share this with our viewers because I think everybody should try it. It does change things. You may or may not have heard about hedonic adaptation. It was the result of a study that was done that followed two people, newly injured paraplegic, I believe, and a lotto winner. So these people's lives changed a lot very quickly right around the time of this study. So obviously the paraplegic was a little bit down, and obviously the lotto winner was a little bit up. But what they found is that after about 6 months max, some of them it happened sooner, other times it's happened a touch later, but they adapt, and their level of happiness is about the same that it was before that. And that is just that the human mind, the human brain, has a tendency to get used to things. It's not necessarily a bad thing with, survival instincts. If something is around for a while, chances are it's probably not going to eat you, so you don't need to waste too much brain power worrying about that log eating you that just appeared, unless it turns out to be an alligator. However, the issue with that is that since we live in such a consumer-driven, keeping up with the Joneses society, that hedonic adaptation essentially indicates that we need to go out every couple of months and get new stuff to make us happy. Negative visualization is a practice in which a couple times a day, a couple times a week, however often you want to do it, you imagine what life would be like without something that you currently have. My Life is Awesome thread started off with, close your eyes, look at something around you, close your eyes, imagine it's not there. What would life be like that? Now open your eyes, it's there. Life is awesome. And what it's all about is just understanding that these things don't necessarily make you happy. Now this isn't to the truest point of Stoicism or mustachionism, really. That was just a fun little play on it that I started because I think it would be a fun little adventure for people to partake in. However, it's all about just understanding that stuff isn't what makes you happy. Freedom, adventures, memories, that's what makes you happy. So Justin, why don't you tell us a little bit about how if you have adjusted or if you've always been that way, what kind of things did you do that they kind of challenge that assumption and you realize, oh my goodness, I get so much joy out of doing this instead of this?
Yeah. I guess to kind of continue on that thought process of appreciating what you have or understanding what you have and why is it useful or valuable. I took a class back in college. I forget what it was called, but I think technology and science and ethics and engineering and something or other. But one of the subjects or topics of discussion was instrumental value versus intrinsic value. And I don't know if you've heard those two competing concepts, but it's basically you got to think about are things instrumentally valuable? Do things bring you value because of the way that you can use them or what they bring about, or are some things intrinsically valuable? Are they valuable in and of themselves? Instrumental is kind of the means to the end. Intrinsic is the end itself valuable. And I just look at so many things around. I mean, physical things, possessions, and they're by and large they're instrumentally valuable. I mean, I like to read books, and books are interesting and they're fun. but they're instrumentally valuable. They have no value unless you read them or enjoy them. The same thing with a vacation house or a boat or a nice car. And I think almost everything that we enjoy is instrumentally valuable because of how we use it or what we do with it. So I kind of keep that in mind. I haven't really done it explicitly, those negative visualization exercises of, if it was gone, yeah, I would miss it and that would suck. Oh, there it is. Great, I'm happy now. But I mean, I do think about things like that of like, wow, this smartphone is amazing. I mean, 10 years ago, this didn't exist. This was like a computer I can put it in my pocket, and it has a 6 or 8 hour battery life, and it's connected all the time. And mine happens to be free with Freedom Pop, but and I bought it for $50 off of eBay. I mean, a couple hours of my former hourly rate of earnings for this amazing device. And it's a camera. I can take pictures with it. I can take pictures of my kids and share them with other people and record video and just this amazing piece of technology. But it's instrumentally valuable. It brings about. It lets me communicate. It lets me read on the go, communicate on the go. So I'm always focused on how does this thing help me, or what benefit does it bring to me? I mean, is a $500 phone 10 times better than a $50 phone? And I usually end up saying not really. I mean, it may be a little bit thinner, maybe a little bit brighter, or have more pixels per inch, but I don't really care. I just want to be able to read my email or send an email whenever I want to, and use the GPS if I want to figure out how to go somewhere, or if I'm late meeting a friend, give them a phone call or send them an email, let them know. So that's those are the sort of things, like just the smallest things like a phone. It's pretty amazing, and part of it is my daughter was sick at home, wasn't able to go to school earlier in the week. And so we were going over some of these recent inventions. She'll mention something and then not realize that there was a previous technology before that that didn't exist when I was a kid. And so I was going over the internet. The internet, I think the first time I used it was in high school. And you guys are probably a couple of years younger than me, so you may remember middle school using the internet. But I mean, for her, everything is connected. Everything is wired up. It works, and technology is so cheap and oftentimes free. And it's, you don't have like Windows 3.1. We have Windows 8.1 whatever, or Mac whatever OS it is now, or iPhone or Android, and you have a diverse choice of operating system. You have a diverse choice of environments, and by and large, they talk to each other. They communicate, and they you can do what we're doing right now. Sit down and chit chat with people on the internet on a $300 laptop, and you're halfway across the country, and Sasha's way up north from here in a different country. It's just I'm just marvel at all these different amazing technologies and advances that we have, even in the last 10 or 20 years. And so that's kind of what I mean, I guess it makes it easier to not have everything, because we're never going to have everything. I mean, we already have everything, really. I mean, we already have so much stuff compared to our former selves 20 years ago, or our parents, or people in other countries. It doesn't cost that much to have a pretty rich life and enjoy things that are relatively inexpensive, or almost free, or sometimes free.
Gotcha. And I actually realized you and Sasha are probably the worst people to ask about this. You guys who have been frugal your entire life. You're like,
oh, yeah.
What do you mean struggle with this? Are you high? I don't know. What about you, Sasha, though? I would like to ask you, kind of, how do you separate yourself from the keeping up with the Joneses, or how do you separate yourself from wanting more and more and more, and just being satisfied and even stoked about what you have?
Amusingly enough, part of it, I guess, was growing up in a family that was doing a lot of advertising photography. So, so watching my dad shoot pictures of French fries or clothes or cars or whatever, and seeing the kinds of things that people did to encourage people to want things, that made me realize, hey, actually, you can think about these things critically, and you can say, no, how does this help me? No, it actually doesn't help me very much. I'd rather spend my time and money and interest and attention in other things. So that helped me a lot. Just realizing, hey, you know what? I don't have to accept the messages that I hear from other people, and actually I really enjoy simple stuff. So for example, travel is such a big thing in the early retirement community. People dream about being able to retire in order to travel. I actually really like being at home. so so it's thinking about what it is that you accept into your life, and realizing that you can't buy happiness. You don't go looking for it outside yourself. You just organize your life to be able to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's funny,
Gotcha.
Sasha. You mentioned that you enjoy being at home. I'm kind of the same way, and I don't know if that is an indicator for frugality or going to be successful in early retirement or what. We've certainly done staycations before where we're just like, let's just hang out and do stuff around the house, and let's go see the museum here in town we've never been to before. It's free and it's 4 miles away, and we've spent 20 years never going to this awesome museum. And so we've done that before, and yeah, it's weird. Like, I know what you mean. There's so many people that plan on doing these huge, massive trips, and I'm kind of guilty of it as well. Sasha and I were discussing before the show. I was getting tips on things to do in Toronto and how to get around, and but that is one thing we do plan on doing, some travel, some longer travel, not just the weekends away or a week of rushing from site to site to site to see things. But yeah, I think if you ever want to try out early retirement, just take a week or two off and do a staycation and see how bored you get. Because if you get bored in a week or two, you might as well just keep working forever so you have something to do.
No. We don't want to discourage people right away. I mean, it took you 6 months to figure out how to relax.
But
Most people more than a week.
I'm still waiting to be bored. Like I don't know. I'm waiting for that time where I'm just like twiddling my thumbs and realizing that there's nothing else for me to do out there. Like I've surfed the entire internet and I've watched everything on TV and I've read every book out there and I've learned every language, and I mean, this realistically is never going to happen because knowledge and content's being created faster than I can absorb it. But yeah, I think maybe a week or two off, or maybe even a sabbatical, or like you're doing 5 years off. But at some point, if you get bored easily in a weekend or in a week, I don't know. I think that might be a good trial run to at least figure out, is it something that you enjoy, or do you have to have something, just busy work, just something to do? I mean, I'm not saying busy work. It could be like Jordan loves to program and write software, write code. But do you have to do that 40 hours a week or more? Is it, how can you keep busy? How engaged can you be? And can you find something to keep your mind engaged and keep your interests up?
Actually, I want to pick up a point from that, because I think a lot of people struggle with figuring out the answer to the "what am I going to do" question, right? People are used to getting direction from other people. They're used to having projects to work on, objectives to work towards, and sometimes when people have burned through their initial backlog of tasks, all the chores they've been meaning to do around the house, or all the little projects that they thought they wanted to do, they realize that actually, the reason they aren't doing a lot of the things that they thought they wanted to do wasn't just a matter of not having the time, which that sentence had a couple of negatives in there. So let me rephrase that properly. Now that you have practically unlimited time. You're retired early. You've got some time to explore your other interests. We, you might still find that you struggle to come up with projects. Actually, no, you seem to be doing a good you seem to be doing fine with that part. But yes, still, there's still projects that you make slow progress on, or there's still projects that, you might get around to, but not yet. So people, even, if they try staycation for a week or two, it takes time to learn how to decide, what am I going to do today? What do I want to do? How do I want to organize it so that, I do the stuff that I care about and I get other stuff done as well. It's a skill.
Yeah,
Or is that just something I struggle with and you don't?
no, I've thought about it, and I've thought about what's the best way to make the best use possible of my time, and that's sort of why I was, there's this dynamic between, like, it's okay to do nothing, and then there's the competing interest of, yeah, but I don't want to do nothing forever. I don't want to, like, wake up in 2 years and realize that I've just spent 2 years doing nothing. So, that's why I say I struggle with it, because I want to do something kind of productive and not just waste my time, because this is the rest of my life. I mean, this is it. So, but at the same time, I saw somebody had a blog post about, like, a very fixed, rigid schedule of, like, Monday I'm going to get up and I'm going to work out from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then I'm going to come back, and at 8:15 to 9:15 I'm going to clean the house, and then at 9:15 to 10:15 I'm gonna sit down and read a book, and then 10:15 to 11:15 I'm gonna prepare lunch, and at 11:30 I'm gonna have lunch, and then at 1 o'clock I have free time from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then it just repeated the whole week, and it was like there was like 4 hours of unstructured free time in the whole week, and I thought about that, and I was like, well, that seems pretty cool. Maybe, nah, I don't think so. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm comfortable enough where I don't want a fixed schedule like that. But I can see the appeal if you're just sitting around doing nothing and you can't, and you feel like you're just unproductive and you're not even enjoying your time.
Yeah.
I can see the benefit of that, to remind you consciously of, like, oh, it's 11 a.m. It's time to go out for my tennis lessons right now, or it's I'm going to go out and walk around the neighborhood. It's 1 p.m. I'm going to go out for an hour-long walk and maybe see some neighbors. And so I can see the benefit of, like, a rigid, structured schedule. But I guess I have a little bit of that with the kids and walking to and from school with them and taking care of the 1-year-old. So, I mean, I do have that kind of built into my schedule already. So, and that's part of it. Like, for me, I know my life will be different in 3.5 years or so, when the youngest kid is in school all day, and then I have just, from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. I have this 6-hour block of, like, what do I do all day? I can almost drive from here to the beach for a couple of hours, and I mean, I would never do that, because it's I would not drive 4 hours to spend 2 hours at the beach. But it's something I could go downtown and bum around for like 4 or 5 hours if I wanted to, and I may do that. I don't know. I may do that with the kiddo once it gets warmer. But anyway, yeah, the schedule was an interesting thing I saw, and so that could help some people if they need that rigidity of a schedule or structure in their day. It's almost like summer camp in a way, where you have planned, programmed activities, and you know what you're doing Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. But so far, I don't know. I feel pretty good about. I mean, I have a little bit, like, there's certain things at the community center and the library that I do with our 1-year-old on Tuesdays, for example. So I know I'm doing that. But otherwise, my Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are pretty free.
Yeah. The way I handle it is I come up with lists of these things that I do want to work on, the productive part of the do something, and then I treat it like a buffet. Whenever I feel like working on one of those projects, I go ahead and do that. and the difference there is that this experiment with semi-retirement or early retirement means that I get to choose what I want to work on, or whether I just want to, spend a couple of hours reading a book or watching, movies or whatever else, going for a long walk. The choice is incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's what, if I ever get this feeling of like, wow, what should I do now? Then I have a list of things that I want to do that I have to work on, and I'll just go look at it and say, all right, which one do I want to pick today? Yeah, like a buffet. Like, which one do I want now? Okay, I'll choose this one. And like, I haven't done my taxes yet. I have to do taxes, so that's going to be 8 hours maybe of putting everything together and checking the numbers and filling out forms and putting stamps on the envelope. So that's something, if I'm ever bored, hey, I have 8 hours that I have to do between now and April 15th. And so there's no excuse for me to be bored unless I've finished that thing that I have to do sometime in the next month.
Yeah.
But there's life. There's so many things in life that you just have to get done. We're trying to get passports for our kid right now, and dealing with the incredible bureaucracy of getting a passport through the postal service down here is mind-boggling. That it's so hard. We pay them for the privilege of not being able to talk to them and waiting in line and then them not showing up. And anyway, it's nice that we have the time to be able to pursue this and get it, but at the same time, I still feel like it's a waste of time when I'm not able to just get something done quickly.
Well, but still, retirement leaves you no excuses. You will get it done, and that's at least you'll get to power through all the things that you need to do and the things that you want to do. Okay, we've got about 3 minutes before we start the next before we start the open hangout. So, if you were to share a tip with somebody who's just starting out in this journey, for example, what's a key action that you would encourage them to take in order to get them moving towards frugal fire?
I guess the biggest thing is maybe two things. Figure out what you're spending, and just figure out what you're spending first, and then maybe figure out if you can cut anything from it. Because there's two ingredients to being able to fire at a very young age. It's keeping your expenses low and then saving lots of money. So obviously knowing what you're spending is one of them. And the other one is just start saving money, even if it's just putting it into a money market account until you figure out how to invest or where to put it. I mean, I know where to put it because I've been doing it for 10 years. And I've read a lot of books on it, but whether it's a 401k or an IRA or just putting it in a money market account, it's better to save it now when you have it instead of spending it, and then get educated on where should you put the money to be as optimal as possible. And that way, once you do figure it out, hey, you have this big pot of money, you can actually go ahead and go invest it. So that's probably the two biggest tips. Know what you're spending, and go ahead and start saving now.
All right, cool. Well, I can actually take that. So one of the things that we're planning on doing on this show is a challenge for our watchers, listeners, readers, whatever it is that you are doing with this video. Nothing inappropriate, I hope. So here is your challenge for the week. Okay, this will go for those of you who have caught fire, those who just heard about this, who still think that catching fire is not a good thing. Here's your challenge. So by 2 weeks from today, I would like you to have something set up, whether it's Mint, Personal Capital, New Cash, anything like that, where you track your spending. I want you to take that, track it for the next 2 weeks, figure out what your savings rate is, and increase it by 2 percentage points. I'll update you guys on how I did with that, because I'm going to do the same thing. Yeah, thank you all for coming. Justin, thank you for being our first guest ever, man. You were awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Sasha, once again, the awesome notes. Thank you so much for doing that. So, Justin, if you want to plug your stuff real quick.
Yeah. Stop on by the blog, rootofgood.com. Check out what we got going on. There's under links at the top or categories. There's a link for all posts if you want to see everything since the beginning of time. I think Mr. Money Mustache has a very similar layout. Check that out. There's a bunch of stuff on there about our budget, our how we save on taxes, how we're doing each month financially with spending and saving, and what I've been up to in retirement. So there's a new post every once in a while. Check it out. Subscribe. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, check it out. rootofgood.com.
Awesome,
Alright.
thanks. And
And if you
Sasha?
want to join the community, go check us out at gplus.to, so gplus.to/mustachians.
All right, and I'm Jordan from jordanreed.com, mostly on G+, though. I'm not very good at blogging because I do have a job still. I'm not there yet. And Sasha?
I'm at sashachua.com. Also, you can find it at livinganaawesomelife.com if you find my name hard to spell. We will see you soon. Catch us in 2 weeks, I guess, with our next guest.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to stop broadcast.